Now, this doesn't look like much, but what I've actually done to this page, you see I've got the note up there, gesso. You'll take some of this gesso and I tape down all the edges and just like kind of pour that gesso out and spread it all around nice and even, right? And then let it dry completely. And then I take like 1000 grit sandpaper and just lightly sand the whole thing down. And then coat it again, sand it again, and then coat it again. And I don't sand it on the third time. What that does is it seals this paper and helps keep it from soaking up all the moisture out of the acrylic paints that we use, right? I wanted to try that, but with priming the page first for a more accurate interaction when it comes to the mini painting. Yeah, yeah, it's not perfect. And the first couple coats are like when you first start painting on it. The biggest difference that I have found when I'm painting on the paper, when I don't treat it at all, it just soaks up all the water, all the moisture, and it's really, you got to use a shitload of paint to put stuff down. Even after it's treated like this, it will take more paint, way more paint on paper than it does for a miniature, for example, right? I mean, the medium's different. The Anyway, but if you're just doing color swatches, I don't treat those pages. But then this page, I actually did treat, and this was this was really a study for the backdrop for this, right? So you can kind of see the similarities there. So I painted this here first as kind of a study for how I wanted the final product to look, right? So that's why long-winded answer to as to why I purchased the gesso in the first place. So I bought it for this, but as I was doing all of my testing for snow, I decided to try this, and it turns out of all the things I tested, this is the one that I like the best. So, well, you paint it enough times. Actually, I sketched that out a couple of times in different. Here, let me. Like I say, I had another one that I filled up, mostly with those like color tests and such. But this was also coated in gesso. This was a different version of the backdrop that I was thinking of. This was one of the other iterations. I had bought a for JT's Try Hard thingy. No, this is this piece is for my son. It represents his D&D character that he has played in our campaign that we've been playing for like 5+ years. And so he's got a half-elven ranger who is a giant slayer. And so that's for this guy here. Oops. Right. So, and this is the piece that I'm working on for ReaperCon. So planning to take it down to ReaperCon and shooting for gold. We'll see if I get there, but we'll see what the judges think. But I'm hoping that this is the one that puts me on the gold map. So anyway, so I've done that. I was prepared to do some other ones here, some additional sketches. What I ended up doing was I used a wooden board, just a real thin piece of board. In fact, I've got that here. You might recognize the silhouette on that shirt as being a Berserk Works logo, because because I like Berserker Works, and he's got cool fucking shit. Hey, how's it going, Dave? We're just running through some iterations here. So this was something you did make it, and I'm glad you did. I appreciate you being here. So this was what I had printed off on some thicker paper to create the create the right size, right? I ended up going with a little different size than this, right? So, but these were just kind of sketches that I had done to try to figure out the composition. Can't end your streak. You've made every single one of them, dude. You're a legend, dude. Legend. So these I was just kind of sketching on paper with pencil. This was the one that I actually ended up painting on the most. You can't see it there, but this is like the fourth. I just painted it. I didn't like it. I painted again. Didn't like it. Painted it again. Didn't like it. And they all had these sort of bluish themes to them. Because I was thinking along the lines of putting him against, you know, having warm colors on him in a blue background with cold colors in the background, right? So, but my initial inspiration piece of artwork was more like what I've got now, and so I talked with with a friend of mine, Pirate Monkey. You might have seen him around, and he very patiently listened to me yak on and on and on about every little change that I made, every little decision that I took that led me in one direction or another, and patiently waited for me to stop talking 20 minutes later and said, yeah, your first idea was the best one. Okay, well, I just spent a week and a half painting everything except that. So I went back to the original piece of artwork, and he suggested doing a master study of it, which is basically just paint a copy of that piece. You're studying how that works. You're studying how you want to start making changes to it in order to make the right composition on the final piece. So just paint it, and so that you understand that painting better. And that was the right decision. That was the right advice. That's why he's awesome, because you can see how the final product ended up compared to that will fit, right? How similar they are. I don't have as many blue tones down in here in the snow. I may add some of that stuff back in later, but so there we go. So if you don't have one of these, get yourself one. They're super, super handy. You wouldn't think you'd need just a paper sketchbook for miniature stuff, but they are super useful for doing all sorts of tests and all sorts of sketching and all sorts of like figuring stuff out before you finally get to your final product. So here we go. We have our gesso. We have our snow. I have a couple of cups here, and let's mix up some snow. Set this off to the side. I probably will pull that backdrop off when I put stuff down. And Dave, I don't think you've quite gotten here yet before. I think if I'm reading all the numbers right and everything else, this should be the stream that qualifies me. You're not fancy enough for a sketchbook. Oh, bullshit. Get one anyway. It's useful. It's not about being fancy. It's about using that as a very safe place to test and experiment and play, so that when you go to a mini, when you go to your final product, you're not wasting a lot of time experimenting on the piece, right? Experiment on paper, because you can iterate through that paper stuff a whole lot faster than you can on the mini, usually. So yeah, this stream should be the one that qualifies me for affiliate. We'll see. I think I've got enough followers. Bookend kitties! Snow? Yes, snow. It's snowing in August. Because why not? So I'm just dumping a whole bunch of this in here. I need a certain amount of volume just to like cover all of this. But I think I probably got a little bit too much snow in here now. So we're just going to mix it up real good, and then I'll worry about consistency and getting the right thickness or thinness. I want this to be thin enough to where it kind of flows a bit. And I don't know, here. I dug out my Typhoon because we're going to probably set the top of it. We're going to set that right on top of there and use that to help level all the snow out. So Bookend Kitties, how are you? Welcome in. Yeah, need some more of that. This says clear gesso. It's white. That's all right though. It's exactly what we're looking for snow. So we're just going to mix up a whole bunch of this. I don't mind mixing up more than I need. I'd rather have mixed up too much and throw some away than hit it right on or just short and have to mix up more. So I don't mind wasting some of this to make sure that I get the right consistency across the whole thing. It does dry clear, but well, here, let me show you. When I mixed it, I did a bunch of tests and experimenting on other stuff, and let's see, there it is. So you can see here, let me pull this down a little bit. You can see there what it looks like. Get some light in there. And then on the, here. So that's what it looked like when I was all done. So I don't know if it's just that the gesso dries clear and there's enough white in that snowflake to give that effect, but that's exactly what I'm looking for. So I tried several different experiments. That's the one that worked. That's the one I liked. Listening to an audiobook. Which one? Hungry and thinking about food. Well, can't blame you there. If you're hungry, go get something to eat. I have not converted over to audiobook stuff yet. I have upgraded from Dead Tree versions to a Kindle, but I'm still the old-fashioned enough that I read my books on instead of listening to them. Although I gotta say, it's hard to read a book while painting a mini, so I might have to convert. We are Legion. We are Bob. Okay. Depends on the material and on the reader. Yeah, I get that. I still have Dead Tree versions of a lot of books, especially stuff like, I mean, if it's a reference book,